Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing what are my top 5 worst nitrous oxide races from the game Crash Team Racing Nitro Field. Now before we begin, I want everyone to remember these are my own opinions and that these are the tracks that I had the most difficulty with. So these might differ from what are your top 5 worst races may be with nitrous oxide. With that out of the way, let's begin with track number 5. Now my choice for the number 5 track is going to be none other than the very first race, Crash Cove. As many people know, this is the very first race in the game, and I know what you're probably thinking, how is this race hard? It's the very first race of the game. Well, for me, it's because the track is very simple. There aren't many shortcuts to take in this track, and the one shortcut you can take can be rather difficult at times. Especially for beginners or first time players, it can be very hard to make sure you're hitting that jump in order to get onto the cliff. Another reason, there's no blue flame to utilize in this track. This track, it's all about being very strict and racing very tight. In order to beat nitrous oxide, you have to stick close to the walls and make sure you boost into the very end to reach max potential speed. I think it took me about 20 tries just to beat nitrous oxide on just this very first race. And this is just one of the very first races of many to come. So that's why I think I chose this track for number 5. My choice for number 4 is going to be the track called Turbo Track. Now the reason I picked this track for number 4 is because this was one of the first tracks where I really had to learn how to use the blue flame. For those of you who don't know, the blue flame gives you incredible speed and it can be very difficult to control at times. So at the time of the race that I did with nitrous oxide, I wasn't too familiar with the blue fire and it was very hard for me to control. As well as this double U-turn point in the middle of the track, it's very hard to control the blue fire and not slam into the wall. So that's where I made most of my mistakes, was right there in the double U-turn in the middle of the track. Once you learn how to make those U-turns and control the blue fire, this race actually isn't that bad. It's just when you're racing nitrous oxide for the first time and this is your first time going through with this track, it's very, very difficult. And that's why I chose this as number 4. Now my pick for number 3 is going to be the Crash Nitro Kart track, Deep Sea Driving. Now this is going to be another track where you have to learn how to control the blue flame and you have to keep very tight turning in this one. For me, the most annoying part of this track was whenever you get into the tube and you had those turning spikes. As you can see, I just smacked into one and just spun out. In the tube there are about, I think, 3 or 4 spikes that you can interact with and get hit with. When you're controlling the blue fire, it's very easy to get hit by them. Another reason I found this track to be very annoying was because whenever I was in the tube, sometimes I'd make a jump too high and I'd slam into the wall at the very end, and I'd lose all my blue flame and my reserves, which slows you down really bad. And nitrous oxide, as you can see, he was in front of me. I was able to beat him in this race, but that was another reason why I found this track to be very annoying and kind of difficult, was just the tube section with those spikes and hitting the wall. As long as you can try to avoid the spikes and not hit that wall, you should be able to beat nitrous oxide pretty easily in this map. It's just those are the things that very annoyed me and just prevented me from getting easy wins, and that's why I chose this for number 3. Now my pick for number 2 is going to be another Nitro Kart track, and the track is Tiny Temple. When I got to this track, I thought it was going to be a cakewalk. I figured to myself, hey, I already completed all the hard tracks. I was completely wrong. So you have to utilize the blue flame, and once you get to this part right here with the blue flame, you have to utilize the mid-air brake, because if you don't, you're gonna slam into the wall with the blue flame. Another reason is, like, yes, the blue flame. You have to utilize the blue flame all the way through. If you manage to hit a wall or lose your reserves or lose the blue flame, it's over with. Nitrous oxide is beating you. This was one of the first tracks where I felt like you have to really utilize the blue flame and learning how to turn. For this one, I would highly recommend using the drift class, just because you can get a little bit of a better turning radius. But you have to utilize that blue flame, or else you're just not going to beat nitrous oxide. And that's why I chose this for number 2. So before we get to the number 1 track on this list, I wanted to do an honorable mention, and the track that I wanted to mention was the Oxide Station track. So not only did I have trouble beating nitrous oxide on this track, I also had a lot of trouble beating N Trophy on this track. And all the tracks beforehand, N Trophy was just a piece of cake. I only had trouble with nitrous oxide before this, but for some reason he was just whooping my ass. As well as nitrous oxide, he was whooping my ass as well. And the reason that he was whooping my ass was just because of all these twists and turns. If you're using the speed class, man, you better have some good skill, because those turns are going to be hard to make. I didn't start beating him until I started using the drift class, and I could start making those corners. Especially with this right here with the blue flame part, it was very hard to make that turn right there until I started doing the until I started using the drift class. And just all those twists and turns, you have to be very precise and very tight. And that's why I just wanted to have this one as an honorable mention before we go on to the number 1 spot. Alright, and the number 1 spot, it's going to none other than the track Dragon Mines. This track gave me so much trouble. I think I spent like 2 hours and over 100 tries just to beat nitrous oxide. This was the track where I was like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna beat nitrous oxide, and I'm not gonna get the platinum trophy with this game. I kept getting smashed by that first mine cart, and just once you're behind nitrous oxide, you're not getting in front of bro. So like, you gotta be on top of it. Another section is the spiral part. That one you really have to learn how to do the U-turn, because if you don't, you're gonna just smash into the wall and you're never gonna get ahead of it. This is another part where I learned, in the spiral section, I learned where nitrous oxide slams into the wall, and that's where I first started learning, you know, he's not perfect. As long as I can do that spiral part, you know, just consistently and good enough to where I'm not smashing into the wall, there's a chance that I can beat him. So that's just, that is the reason why I put this as number 1. It just gave me so much trouble, and I'm just gonna say it. Fuck Dragon Mines. This track just sucked. Fuck it. Alright guys, that concludes this list. I just want to thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and let me know in the comments what tracks gave you the most trouble. I look forward to hearing some of your guys' reply. Until next time, I do plan on beating Velo's time trials, so maybe sometime in the future we can get a top 5 worst Velo trophy or time trials. But as for right now, I've only beaten, I think, the first 5 tracks, and I'm getting close to Dragon Mines, and I really am dreading doing that one again. But you know, let's see if that makes number 1 again, or even makes the list again. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.